wrong. So
the American public, by and large, did not think John Kerry was the guy to do that.
that's correct, because the president had a case, a very simple case to make. I'm the commander-in-chief. I won the war in Afghanistan, even though John Kerry supported, even though, by the way, there's a credible case that the president's own negligence prior to 9/11, at least in part, contributed to the disaster in the first place.
How so?
Well, the 9/11 report says in Chapter 8, now it's beyond the campaign, so the promise I had to keep this out of the campaign is over. And the 9/11 report in Chapter 8 says that in the summer of 2001, the government ignored repeated warnings by the CIA, ignored, and didn't do anything to harden our border security, didn't do anything to harden airport security, didn't do anything to engage local law enforcement, didn't do anything to round up INS and consular offices and say we have to shut this down, and didn't warn the American people. The famous presidential daily briefing on August 6th, we say in the report that the briefing officers believed that there was a considerable sense of urgency and it was current. So there's a case that could be made that wasn't made.
But what we've continued to hear from this administration is that the threat was much too diffuse. There was no way you could zero in on the fact that Al-Qaeda was going to use jets as bombs and ram them into buildings.
That is a straw man. The president says, if I'd only known that 19 Islamic men would come into the United States of America and on the morning of the 11th September hijack 4 American aircraft, fly 2 into the World Trade Center, 1 in the Pentagon, and 1 into an unknown destination that crashed in Shanksville, I would have moved heaven and earth. That's what he said. Mr. President, you don't need to know that. This is an Islamic jihadist movement that's been organized since the early 1990s. It's been declared war in the United States twice, in 96 and 98. You knew they were in the United States. You were warned by the CIA. You knew in July they were inside the United States. You were told again by briefing officers in August that it was a dire threat. And what did you do? Nothing, so far as we could see in the 9/11 Commission. Now, that's in the report. And we took an oath not to talk about during the campaign, I think correctly so, to increase the capacity of that Commission's report to be heard by the People's Congress. But the report, I think it's difficult for a challenger. If I had been the challenger, it's difficult to make that case when you're running against an incumbent. He can stand back and say, oh, you're just grousing.
Oh, we couldn't connect the dots, is what we heard. A final question for you, sir.